Alrighty, fellas, here's how to overcome literally any objection without having to remember what to say when prospect says X, because I have been there. I used to have entire Word documents where I would have written out, okay, when my prospect says this, I respond with that. And then what would happen is I'd be on the call and the prospect would say that, and I'd be like, oh, I forgot what to say. And I'd try to be like fiddling around and like trying to remember what to say. And it doesn't work, right? It did not work. And actually, not too long ago, when I was trying to build my agency, I came across this book because I was struggling with sales, known as The Closer Survival Guide by Grant Cardone. And in The Closer Survival Guide, it has over 100 ways to ink the deal, which is really 100 different ways to handle objections, okay? And it would say, when prospect says X, you say Y. And I studied this book relentlessly. I wrote it down, and like I said, I had an entire Google Doc going, but what kept happening is every time I would hear that objection, whether I was on the phone or on Zoom, I would forget what to say, and I would fumble the bag, and no matter how much practice I did, I never actually mastered it. And so I got frustrated, and then I started to dive into another type of objection handling, which I'm going to share with you guys in this video on how to do that. And I picked it up from people like Russell Brunson and Dan Kennedy and Alex Ramosi. And even though it's not, publicly taught about, I kind of read between the lines as to how they were handling objections, and I modeled it for my own business. And when I started to do this, I actually tried it out on this gym that I was working with. And I remember I was actually in a phone booth. So it was weird. I was in this like public office, and they had like these phone booths, and I had to like run in there, and I like took the call from my phone. I wasn't even on Zoom. And then I went through my pitch, and he hit me with some objections and whatnot. And then I used this objection handling process. And after going through this objection handling process, I heard something that I had never ever heard somebody say to me. I heard the guy say, "Listen, Dylan, I don't know if you want to work with us, but we would love the opportunity to work with you. If you have the ability to take us on, we would be honored to work with you." And I just remember looking at my phone like, what did he just say to me, right? I had never had somebody ever tell that to me. And that's when I knew that this was something big. This was something new. This is something that had to be mastered. And since then, I've done that, and I've written this out into a step-by-step, easy to follow process so you can overcome literally any objection that you handle on a sales call. So the first thing that we must talk about is why objections come up in the first place. Well, every objection stems from one of three false beliefs. They don't believe in the vehicle, i.e. they don't believe in Facebook ads, they don't believe in Google ads, they don't believe in the system that you are providing, or they don't believe in you as a human being. Number two is they don't believe in themselves. They believe that even though the system might work, even though you might be good at what you do, they don't believe that if you were to get them all these leads, they would be able to close the leads. And the third problem is they might not believe in their situation. They don't believe that because of something else going around in their environment, they're going to be able to capitalize on this new opportunity that you are presenting them. So in order to overcome this false belief, we must first understand how it was formed. And now beliefs are formed in one of two ways, either experiences that we have had or stories that we've been told from sources we trust, right? Why do we believe that the sky is blue? We believe that the sky is blue because at one point we went outside, we looked up in the sky, and we saw that it was blue, right? And so from that point on, because we had that experience, we now are of the opinion that the sky is blue, okay? Now, why do we believe that a man landed on the moon? Some people might not, but that's a whole nother can of worms. But why do you believe that a man landed on the moon? Well, you believe that a man landed on the moon because you heard that story from a source that you trusted, okay? Those are the only two ways that beliefs are formed. Now, if we're going to change the beliefs of our prospect in order to overcome that objection and want to do business with us, we have to understand why it was formed and how we can overcome it. So in order to rewrite their beliefs, we must first establish trust, right? Because we can't necessarily give them an experience that they haven't had before. So we're going to have to tell them a new story coming from a source that they trust. So we need to establish trust. I have a bunch of other sales videos on my YouTube channel to where you can see how I am able to establish trust. One of my more recent videos is how to establish so much trust prospects who let you sleep with their daughters. So if you want to check that video out to establish more trust with your prospects, I'll link it in the description. Now, after you've established trust, we must tell them a new story relating to their current false belief, okay? So let me get into this. This is where we introduce the story log, okay? So the story log is going to be your key to overcoming any objection that you ever get faced with. And basically, a story log is broken up into three key elements. Number one is the false belief, which is the objections that you were getting. That is the raw objections. That is how they are manifested onto the call or onto the Zoom meeting. The second part of this story log is the current story, which is the belief origin. It is what is the experience that they had, or what is the story that they were told which causes them to have this belief. And then the third part of the story log is the new story that you're going to pair up with this false belief and tell them in a non-salesy way, in a very organic storytelling, entertaining and engaging way that's going to get them to come to their own conclusion that their new belief is the better way about doing business and overcome their objection in their own mind. So then they eventually choose to do business with you. That is why the guy reached out to me and said, I would be honored to do business with you, because he came to the own conclusion that I was right for him. I didn't tell him that I was right for him. He came to his own conclusion based on the stories that I was able to tell him, which is why this technique is so powerful. Okay. So here are some random examples, and I apologize right off the bat. I use RSC Inner Circle as a case study just because I have the most context on that. But anyways, false belief number one that I sometimes hear is, oh, well, this won't work for me, right? And usually that comes from somebody who spent a lot of money on programs in the past and they're still stuck, right? Well, I would just simply tell them the story about the Inner Circle member who invested over $40,000 in programs before. He spent $18,000 on one single program. He joined the Inner Circle. He succeeded in these small, very small, tight-knit communities of winners who helped him daily. He realized that it was not a big Charlie Morgan, Iman Godzi, Joel Kaplan style of program. He realized that it was 30 to 40 guys who know, liked, and trusted him, and were willing to come inside of his agency and help him daily. He realized that it was something completely different, right? And so if I was to get hit with that objection, if I was down on my luck and I was trying to sell the RSC Inner Circle, I would try and, this is how I would overcome that objection. Now, another one, let's say if somebody said, oh, I don't have enough money. And the reason that they're saying that is because they look at their bank account and the experience that they had is their bank account is empty. Well, I would tell them a story about an RSC member who split up his payments using what he had. And 2 months later, he was at $10,400 per month. Okay. Or I don't believe I'm capable. This is one of the more common objections that I've seen amongst people starting an SMMA or people earlier in their SMMA journey. They don't have the confidence, right? And I would simply tell them the story about Ishmael, who he's been on my channel before, and some of you guys may know him, but he had failed multiple businesses in the past, right? Ishmael had failed 9 businesses before starting his SMMA. He joined the Inner Circle and he hit $16K a month in 5 months. Okay. Now you can see that if you were to come and you were to, we were on a call and you were to hit me with these different objections and, I was say, oh yeah, totally. That actually reminds me of, and then told them this story, it would help you come to your own conclusion, right? It's not me saying, oh, well, because you said that, oh, well, do you really have that much? Like some stupid headbutting on rapport losing, objection handling, like Grant Cardone has been teaching in the Closer Survival Guide, which I had went down that road. I tried that thing, okay? That doesn't work in 2023. People have been on a sales call before, okay? As soon as you try and headbutt on, handle their objections, their sales resistance goes up through the roof and your odds of closing the deal go down to the floor, okay? So here's some real life examples that I actually used to use when I was selling in the gym niche, right? So if a Facebook ad didn't work, if I got the objection, oh, Facebook ads don't work. Well, usually the story or experience that they had is that they tried Facebook ads in the past and they wasted money. Well, I would simply tell them the story about one of the gyms that I worked with. So I had this one gym, I was running the ads and we hired videographers to get these high quality videos. And what ended up happening was the ad cost started to go up. So I sent an email to my client explaining that we needed a new video, but they didn't want to pay for the video. And they offered to take the video themselves. And so, I said, okay, well, they ended up sending over the video after like 2 weeks of me hounding them. And the video sucked. The video was shaky. There was like a finger in the image. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, fuck, I'm about to lose this client. I almost didn't even upload it because I thought it was so bad. But because there had been such a delay and because now my ads were so underperforming because they're so fatigued, I was like, well, I'm in a shitty situation here. I either run this shitty ad or I run the ad that is already shitty. It's not a good situation to be in, right? But, the only option I had was to run their shitty ad. And it turned out to be the best performing campaign to date. And I was shocked, right? And the reason why it was the best performing campaign to date is because it did not look like an ad. It looked like an organic Facebook post. And ever since that moment, I focused on creating organic looking ads and basic style text ads. And what happened was actually not only did a cost per lead in that campaign go from $15 to $2, the cost per lead benchmark that we started implementing amongst our media buyers went from let's try and get our clients $15 leads to let's try and get our clients $3 leads once we realized the power of organic looking creatives. Okay, so that's how I would handle the objection of Facebook ads don't work, right? Oh, well, yeah, okay, but what about if you low quality leads, right? And if they said that, well, I know that they've tried Facebook ads in the past and they got low quality leads. Well, then I would hit them with this story. So I was in the planning stages of a campaign and I insisted that my client raise the prices from $144 a month, but they're currently trying to arm wrestle people, to $600. And they responded with a long drawn out email that everybody in their city is either poor and can't afford it, or they're rich and they go to the country club and they use the amenities at the country club. And after a lot of back and forth, we finally settled on about $400 for their offer. But we completely changed and repositioned their offer. Instead of associating price with number of sessions like they were doing in the past, it was like a 10 pack for $144. We created a results-based defined end program. We stacked a whole bunch of value. We positioned it as like this 2K program, and then we launched it and we closed 70% of leads. Not 70% of appointments, 70% of instant form leads on Facebook, okay? Because it wasn't the price that was the issue, it was the positioning and the value. And that's when we learned that people will price shop for what they need, health, but a premium, they'll pay a premium for what they lust for. They will lust to get their high school body back so they can impress their friends, and they will pay a premium for that. Okay, well, I don't really have time to be handling all these leads. Boom, I have a story for you. Well, I started a new client relationship with some successful serial entrepreneurs, and there was actually 5 businesses between these 2 founders, and everything checked out except for the consultation time appointment, because we wanted to send leads in to get a free consultation where they could be walked around the gym, assessed with their health needs, and then sold an associating program, right? But the founders, they didn't have the ability to do that, and they knew that their staff weren't that very good at sales, right? They're like, hey, their staff's like at sales. Like, I don't think it's going to work. I don't have the time, right? So then I asked them, well, what makes people stay and pay a premium? I asked them that, right? And they said, well, listen, like once they come in the door, they see how serious we take our shit. They see how good of a gym we are, and they stay. I was like, okay, well, what we can do is we can promote one free class so leads can come in, jump into one free class. It takes no additional time, gets people in the door. They can see your atmosphere. They can meet the coaches, and they can actually experience it. And then we did that. We launched it, and their campaign took off. Right? The owners didn't even have to be there, and the staff didn't even have to sell because their good service did the selling for them. Okay. And that is how I would overcome the I don't have time objection. So you can see basically what you do is you just simply pair stories with false beliefs to overcome their objection. And I have a gift to you in exchange for the time that you spent watching this video. So I've created an objection eliminator story log that I'm going to link in the description for you to check out so you can fill out your own objection eliminator story log. You can write the objection, you can write why your prospects are believing that, and you can write them a new story to tell. Now you might be wondering, well, Dylan, I haven't been in business for 6 years like you, and I've only have a couple stories. Well, that is okay. You can use third-party case studies. You can find stories of myself. You can find stories of people in the RC Discord. You can find stories of people all over the world, right? It doesn't matter. Like the amount of times, people come to me, oh, well, I don't know if I'm qualified enough to be able to do this. I'm like, well, you don't need to be qualified to know. You don't need to know how to do everything. You just need to know one thing that people can't. And then I would tell them the story about the movie Catch Me If You Can, right? So here's the objection eliminator, link in the description. I appreciate it very much. And as always, I would hope that you guys don't subscribe, because the less subscribers I have, the more value we get per subscriber. With that, I will see you guys in the next video.